another episode of the White Belt MMA podcast, and it's an absolute pleasure to have on the show Burnboy. You might have heard some of his work on those UFC countdowns, the epic music and everything like that. So, hey, Burnboy, how you doing?
What's up, bro? I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Pretty good, pretty good. So, like I said off camera, I mean, like I really appreciate you giving me the time. You really didn't have to, but yeah, man, legitimately every person I bring in here, like, I enjoyed talking to them and asking them about their journey coming up, right? Everyone wants to follow their dreams, and that's what you're doing. So, yeah, tell us a little bit of how, who you started up, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first, thanks for having me, bro. I mean, I remember being a senior in college. I remember, the last couple months before being able to get out and just kind of like pursue whatever it is you want to do. And dude, I wish that there was a platform like this when I was in college so I could connect with people and just, find interesting stuff to talk about and find cool people to look to as like mentors, something
Mm-hmm.
like that, which I didn't really have. So yeah, dude, really stoked to be on this, man. Thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my experience in music started kind of the similar storyline as most people, where when you're like 10 years old, they just throw an instrument at you in elementary school.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to play drums. Like growing up, even as a little kid, I had my parents get me this little Sesame Street drum set. But when I showed up to get my instrument, they're like, "Oh no, we have too many drummers. You're tall. Play trombone. You got long arms." It's like, okay, as a 10-year-old, you don't really know to stand up for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, fine, okay, I guess I'll play trombone. So I ended up playing trombone, and I got weirdly good at it kind of quick.
Mm-hmm.
I got yelled at my first lesson because the teacher just wanted us to learn how to put the instrument together, and I ended up learning the whole book.
Oh,
And
that's
I
awesome.
didn't realize it was a thing, but I was like, oh, maybe I'm kind of good at this. Maybe music just comes naturally. I grew up around a lot of it. My dad's a good singer, and he'd have his friends over to jam, and they'd sing harmonies in the living room. My mom doesn't perform a lot, but she's got great pitch and plays guitar and piano. So I always kind of grew up around it. Um, and then the drum thing never left me. I always wanted to keep coming back to drums, keep coming back to it. Every opportunity I had in bands and jazz bands and stuff growing up, I'd always just kind of like will it into existence by talking about how I wanted to play drums. So, really started playing when I was about 12, and took a couple lessons, but for the most part was self-taught, and would just bring buddies over and start playing little like Blink-182 songs and just jamming on stuff in my parents' basement. So one thing leads to another, and all of a sudden I'm in a band and we're playing shows around our hometown. And one thing leads to another. I start to find that I'm really good at hearing different little things in recordings and in songs that not a lot of people heard.
Mm-hmm.
I bought like the second Limp Bizkit CD. I was like, holy shit, I was a kid, but I was like, this blows my mind. I don't understand why this sounds so good. And as cringy as it may be to some people, it is such a guilty pleasure of mine. And it kind of turned me into like thinking, okay, well, if I'm not going to be in a band, then what? What's the next best thing to me? And my mom suggested while I was looking at college, like maybe you should think about like recording music or music production. And I just kind of thought that made sense, and ended up going to college for music production. I went to Ithaca College, and things just kind of kept progressing, and I ended up really wanting to pursue it as a passion, as a job, and did absolutely everything I could to make sure that happened along the way.
Mm-hmm. And like by you going to college, I know you said like your mom recommended you for you to go into music production and everything like that. For you, like right away though, like were you kind of like, yeah, let's hop on board onto this, or for you kind of had to take a little bit convincing from your mom, and then once you got to like college, that's like your first class, you're like, okay, this is what I like doing. This is like
Totally.
my passion. Yeah.
Yeah, it was always kind of a backup plan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
For the longest time, I thought that I wanted to be in a band, and I thought that I wanted to play drums and tour and do the whole thing. But as I was I worked really hard in college to kind of do both. So I had a band, and I'd schedule my classes so that I could leave Thursday through Sunday and go on tour. So we'd go play around, East Coast, Midwest, came out to LA and did a few shows. And then I'd go back to school, show up Monday morning, do all my classes, all my work from Monday to like Thursday morning, basically. But as that journey continued, I found that I liked the idea of being in a band more than actually being in a band. I like doing the work, playing with friends and booking shows and going out and performing was great. But dude, I'm an okay drummer, but I never really had the passion for it that I found for music production. And being in the studio working with talented people or writing something for myself, it fit better for my personality. I'm the kind of dude who could get up on stage and do karaoke and sing and be a complete maniac for 2 minutes, but then I want to just disappear for a little bit. And music production is very much that, where you bring people in, you collaborate on this really intense, intimate level, and then I can just disappear and be the producer. And hang out in my studio where I am now and finish the song for a week. And it just seems to work better. I really love that idea. And I love the process of it a lot more than being in a band.
That's awesome. And, like you said, like you kind of like, said at the beginning, right? Like, let's say like you're in college and then like your senior year, right? Like, you're about to graduate or anything like that. And like, you're about to like, put your all into, what you're trying to pursue. So like, tell us a little bit about those early experiences, what I mean? Like, how'd you land your first gig, and working in music production? Cause, I know for me, like, so it's like me graduating as a senior, I'm over here, I'm stressing. I'm over here. I'm like, oh my God, now I actually have to, go into the real world and actually, apply for jobs and everything like that. So it's like, for you, tell us a little bit, hopefully some of your early experiences can make me feel a little bit better about myself, especially going into my field.
I think, yeah, for sure, dude. I think you're doing exactly what I did in a lot of ways, where you speak your future life into fruition, where you're here talking about what you want to do, what you're passionate about. And because you're putting it out into the world, dude, it comes back to you. It's pretty crazy to think about it. But that's what I did a lot of that. I was just kind of a loudmouth about, oh, well, I want to be a music producer. I'm going to move to LA. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I had none of that stuff set up. It was just me being hopeful and talking about it a lot. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, you got to do the work. You've got to get good at your profession. You have to really focus, and you have to do it just as much as you talk about it. But if you become a master at your craft and nobody knows about it, then what? You're just sitting at home being an expert in something, and that's where it kind of stops. But I did a lot of the similar thing where I would talk about what I was passionate about, what I wanted to do. And my first gig as a music producer was producing just a local bar. They needed a song for their radio station ads, like a radio jingle. So I was fortunate that I grew up around radio. My dad is a radio ad salesman and a fucking awesome voiceover guy. He is well known in my hometown as like the voice of a couple of different businesses. So it was cool to
That's awesome.
be around that. So I grew up around radio, and I kind of understood how to pitch myself because I'd seen my dad as a salesman ultimately sell himself as the product, being a voiceover guy, which is unbelievably helpful as a self-employed music producer, artist, composer. So I went into the business, asked them a bunch of questions about what they really wanted, and then a week later was able to deliver them a song that they were excited about. It's kind of like a pop rock type of thing. I hired one of the guys in my band to come sing on it, and it ended up being on the radio for a bunch of years, which was
that's awesome.
a really cool start. Yeah, I did that right before I graduated college. So that immediately was like, oh, this is real. I can make a couple $100 doing this. Now I just got to do it again and again and again. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but it worked once. I might as well, think it'll work again.
Yeah. And like, just to kind of like add on to a little bit what you said before, about the I'm sorry, but it kind of lagged a little bit. But yeah, no, a little bit about what you said about like manifesting and like speaking into existence. My bad. I'm sorry about that. A little tongue twister there. But yeah, no. So
No worries.
were you always that type of person though? Like I mean, in knowing that like if you put it out into the world, like dreams can happen. Like you said, obviously you have to put in the work, but or was it one of those suppose that like over time, like your support system kind of like instilled that mindset into you?
I think it was a little of both. Just being that half extroverted, half introverted at times kind of dude.
Mm.
When I'm feeling that extroverted moment, I just talk about things I'm excited about. Like a natural salesman. I think my dad does the same thing. He'll just call me up and just go on and on and on about this one little thing he's excited about. So I learned from his example. But then along the way, one of my first friends in college was actually my road into the UFC years and years later. He and I lived together in LA when I first moved here. And one of his pieces of advice, he's like, dude, when I first moved here, I wasn't an editor, right? Like a TV editor, a promo editor. I was nothing. But whenever people asked what I was, I told them I was an editor. And I just really manifested what that was going to be. And it eventually turned into this crazy career, which I can tell you about because kind of being friends with him helped launch what I do in a really meaningful way. So I thought that was really important where when you're just getting out of school, whether you want to be a podcaster, an editor, a songwriter, people call me all the time, say, dude, how do I become a songwriter? Like, just write a song and say you're a songwriter and tell everybody. And then all of a sudden you are. It's a lot of that, just having this crazy like blind faith in yourself and saying you are the thing before you are the thing, and then figuring it out as you go along.
Yeah.
Nobody really, the older you get and the more you do this and work with people on higher levels, the more you realize like nobody really knew what they were doing starting out. A lot of people don't really know what they're doing now at all. But they're just figure it out as they go along. They're great at pretending and it just kind of works. So being a dude that's about to graduate, just, I mean, I can't say it enough, just seeing the podcast and seeing the content that you're putting together and putting out, dude, you're going to run it eventually.
I really
I'm very
appreciate
confident.
that, man.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, no, I mean, because I mean, that thing about you saying like just speaking it out into existence and then eventually what happen. Like, I feel like for me, like, it's an advice that I'm really gonna, take to heart because it really means a lot. Because, like over time, it's like obviously you tell people what you want to do, you want to get into, for me, like broadcast and just, anywhere in the media field. And obviously, normal people look at you with a side eye. They're like, okay, man, come on, think about something else. But then again, it's like you said, it's like, hearing people like you, even Conor McGregor, right? Conor McGregor's another big guy that, says speaking things into existence, and then look where he's at.
100%. So
it's like, that advice is something I'm really going to take to heart. And it really means a lot, for, you just saying, me doing this podcast, me, putting all the content, it's like really great. And like, I really appreciate you saying that. So, yeah, man. So, you said it yourself, like your friend, he was kind of like you're into the UFC. So tell us a little bit about that. Like, how did that come about? And because, dude, some of the songs he produced for those UFC countdown shows, they get me hyped up. If anything, I'm putting them on in the gym. I'm over here, I'm like, putting my curls, and I'm like, dude, it's awesome.
Yeah, that's what I like.
Yeah.
That's what I like to hear. And you being a jujitsu dude too, I mean, the fact that the music I make can fire people up on any level is just bananas to me. So thanks, bro. Thanks.
Yeah, no, obviously, yeah.
So my buddy Adam, he was the third person that I met at Ithaca. I had went, it was my probably second night there, and me and this girl that I had met at orientation were just kind of cruising around the parking lot, ended up stumbling into this dude. We talked for a second. He's like, hey, you guys want to come over and just hang out? I got some beers. Like, yes, of course. That sounds great. And we became friends immediately. Turns out another East Coast dude. I'm from upstate New York originally. He's from Jersey. So we just got along, We stayed buddies. We didn't become super close until like the last year or so, last 2 years of college. Just because he and I really started to figure out what we wanted to do. and we saw this common crazy work ethic, and you tend to gravitate toward people that have a similar like enthusiasm for what they want to do, even workaholism in some cases.
Yeah.
So he and I interned in LA at the same time and drove across the country together with a couple other people and just became homies. So when I moved back to upstate New York after college, I was in my band, we were playing around, and he was one of the dudes who was always very encouraging. I was like, dude, I'm gonna come out to LA again. I'm coming out, I'm moving out, I'm moving out. He's like, do it. Ended up moving out to LA in 2008, and me and him just started working together on little projects. We were just doing music stuff. We'd kind of hype each other up about the music we were making. He was an assistant editor at the NFL, and it turned into an assistant editor job at the UFC. At the time, the UFC was big, but it was not nearly what it is now. I knew nothing about it. I would just see the little reels that he would cut together and the stuff he was assisting with. And it was rad. I just saw him completely take this, just dive headfirst into this world and create content. He started as an editor, became an assistant editor, and then worked his way up to become the executive producer of so many of these shows that I work with and that I've watched. He's directed a bunch of the promos for the major fights. And he's the guy who told me, he's like, dude, come out to LA, just say you're a music producer. You'll become one, just say you're one. And watching his growth was really monumental. We went our separate ways. He was doing his thing, I was doing my thing. I ended up getting a song that I wrote placed on the show Hard Knocks on HBO.
Yeah.
So we all use our Instagram as a resume and like a reel for what we do. I posted about it on Instagram, and he DM'd me. He's like, dude, did you make this? You wrote this song? I said, yeah. He's like, do you have more? I said, probably. Why? What's up? He's like, well, I'm working at the UFC. I'm now doing this. And he went from being just an editor to now running an entire division out here.
Wow.
Over a couple of years. And he gave me the opportunity to send him a couple songs, and it launched ultimately what would become my artist project, Burnboy. I understood how to make this particular genre of music that worked for football, UFC, kind of everything in between. And he really gave me my first shot at creating something custom. So then it went on to, I wrote the theme song for the Top 10 show, the UFC Top 10 show. I wrote the theme song for UFC Sound Waves, kind of the behind the scenes show with the audio, which was such a killer couple episodes. And then he went off to make a bunch of the documentaries. He did the 25 Years in Short series, and I got to write the theme song for that. And it was just like, wow, unbelievable, the opportunities he gave me. And there's such a trust there because we know each other and we speak a similar language. He himself is a great musician, which is really helpful because not everybody that works in TV and film knows how to speak the language. It's very specific, but he was able to kind of tell me, like, I need this kind of genre for this show, this genre for this show, this for this show. And I busted my ass. I mean, there was no guarantee that any of it was actually going to go through. A lot of what you do in music is you just write the song. If it gets placed, you get paid. But if it doesn't, you just spend a week doing something that's never going to turn into anything. So I was really fortunate to have him helping kind of guide me through exactly what he needed for the UFC, the 25 Years in Short theme song. I made 6 versions of that before I even sent it in because I wanted them to have options and they needed to have something to look through. So I have the 6 demo versions, and then the one that ended up becoming the theme song, I went in and spent another week updating and making it sound cool. But yeah, that was the road into the UFC, and that's kind of how it has progressed.
And like for you, like, you know, like you making all these songs and everything like that, like how does it feel to, you know, have people like me or just fans hitting you up on social media be like, yo man, like this is some epic stuff? Because like I said, it's super epic, and like it's perfect workout music too, especially like, you know, the last one that I just heard, what was it, Champion, that I'm just there like, Yeah, like legitimately, like that's honestly right now probably one of like my top 5 songs to work out for in the gym.
No kidding.
Yeah, no,
That's,
yeah, like I'm not just saying this because I have you on the interviews, legitimately for a fact, and
that means
especially,
so much, man.
yeah, man.
Yeah,
But
it blows my mind. I mean, it's funny because you sit here and you do the work, and a lot of what we do, we sit in this room. It's not huge, you know. I've got a vocal booth right over there,
mm,
and that's kind of it. We sit inside in a windowless room and we make stuff that we like. And I call artists and collaborators and singers to come over, who I love as people and whose voices I really love, that I know are going to connect with this particular genre. And you just kind of do the work and put it out and hope. And to get any kind of feedback is ridiculous. But
mm.
to have you say that it's maybe one of your top songs right now is crazy, dude. So sick.
No,
It
yeah,
really it really blows my mind. And to see YouTube comments and to put out songs with groups like Neoni, who are on Champion, and my buddy Sam Tinez and Brook Williams. They have a fan base. I'm just getting started as an artist. I've been a producer for a really long time, but the UFC and the music I've created for them, I needed an outlet. I needed to put this stuff out into the world. For the longest time, it just sat there in my hard drive. I'd put it on, it'd make it on a show, and occasionally it would make it into another show or promo somewhere else. But I felt like it was something that needed more. It needed to have more life to it. So the UFC and the music that I made helped shape Burnboy and
Mhm.
helped shape the artist project that would be the home for all of this stuff. So now I have an outlet for it. It really means a lot to get any kind of comment,
Mhm.
even if people hate it. Because, dude, you know, UFC fans,
Yeah,
they are brutal. On
yeah.
a few of the songs, you put them up, like the ones that have been featured on Countdown. You
Mhm.
look through the comments, and some of them are like, "Bro, this song's trash." It's like it's like a shitty Imagine Dragons. It's
Oh
like
God.
I I think it is so. I honestly, I couldn't care less. I think it's awesome that people actually, if you hate it, that's totally fine. That's what
Mhm.
art is for. You know, it's the fact that they hated it so much that they were compelled to comment about it is still pretty sick.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I mean, don't they have a saying? It's like good publicity. I mean, good or bad publicity is still
yeah,
publicity. So it's like,
100%.
yeah, that's awesome. I mean, like you said,
Trash
it's
me
like,
all you want. Post
yeah.
about me all you want. I don't. That's totally great, because for every person that hates it, hopefully there's two that think it's fine. That's totally cool.
No, I'm sure it's way more than 2 that think that your music's fire, man. Like, you know, what I mean, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, dude, and like you said, it's like the UFC, you know, offered you opportunities to kind of like, you know, open like, I mean, release your artist projects. And I know you just released an EP with Brook Williams. So how was that? You know, what I mean, like just putting that out to the world. Like, how did it feel knowing that it was your first project too?
That was scary.
Yeah.
It is a little scary because it's a lot of work. You
Hmm.
put a lot of time into it. You do revision after revision after revision and edit after edit after edit, and you hope that people are just going to listen to it at this
Hmm.
point. You know, the fact that it's had any feedback, positive feedback at all, is crazy. But it's definitely nerve wracking. And the Brook project was the first full EP. The song "Knock You Down" that's on the EP
Hmm.
was the first song that made it into a countdown episode.
Hmm.
Um, and that one was the one that it really that was the first one that made it into a countdown episode with Brook, and that was the one that got me thinking about releasing it as a full artist project. That's the one that started the whole thing. It got some attention from this other company, um, that specializes in, they're like they're a record label basically. They
Hmm.
specialize in signing projects and putting them out into the world and getting them on other TV shows. And to have any kind of recognition for something that me and Brooke just made for my buddy Adam, and then my friend Mike, who's now overseas Countdown.
Hmm.
Um, to be able to get the recognition from them, have them put it out in the world and support it, and then release it independently as an artist, it's definitely scary. It's a vulnerable place to be, putting your art out, because once it's out, you can't fix it. You
Hmm.
can't change it. It is what it is. You know, you can edit and edit and edit forever, but when you put it out, you got to move on. Time to do the next thing.
Yeah. Yeah. But hey, man, like I said, it's an awesome EP as well. I mean, like I said, it's like not just champion, like I said, or not, and not just everything that you put off the countdown. Legitimately, like your whole music is a vibe in terms of working out and motivating yourself, which is honestly awesome. And like I know it kind of seems like I'm kind of kissing your ass or anything like that, but legitimately, it's the truth. And like I just want to let you know with that, what I mean. So that's awesome.
That feedback is huge, dude. That's definitely huge.
Yeah. So man, I do. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, yeah. So I was gonna kind of transition into there's a big fight coming up in a couple of weeks, UFC 264, and honestly, I'm hoping I see your music on the countdown again, especially there. I'm crossing my fingers. So,
You might.
Okay. So
When's this gonna go up on
probably in the next couple of days. Probably. So if
Okay.
anything, probably like Tuesday, it'll probably be up on YouTube.
So I have a song coming out on July 2nd. It's myself, Burnboy, with Cece and the Dark Hearts. Really good friend of mine. Valerie Broussard has a side project called Cece and the Dark Hearts. It's a vibe, dude. It's dark, it's creepy, it's badass, and we came together and created a banger for it. And it may or may not end up in the countdown. So if you want to pre-save it, you can follow me on Instagram at I am Burnboy and hit the link. There's a pre-save link for the song called This Ends Tonight.
Okay, so I'm definitely doing that right
Fingers
after the
crossed.
interview.
Dude,
Fingers
the
crossed.
crazy thing, man, is you never know if a song is going to make it into a show until
Mhm.
you see it on the show.
Mhm.
Shit changes so quickly in this industry. It can be all so last minute. So fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed indeed. And I'm definitely like I said, I'm definitely doing that right after we get off here, going to your Instagram and
Thanks,
pre-save
man.
it. So yeah. But
Dude, those pre-saves help. As an
yeah.
independent artist, those pre-saves are crazy helpful. It lets Apple, Spotify, everybody know that people actually care. So it's
Mhm.
crazy helpful.
That's awesome. So I have to ask you though, especially predictions, Conor McGregor, Dustin Poirier, the trilogy. So it's like
Yeah.
one of those things. It's like for me being a Conor McGregor fan, my heart's pounding because the thing is, it's kind of like, oh man, if he loses twice in a row, what does this mean? And then again, it's like me being such a fan of like like we said earlier, is like him being, the type of guy to speak things into existence and like his come up, and it was just so inspiring. So for him to, I mean, I don't know, lose or anything like that. It's making me sweat. So for you, like, what do you think? Like, do you want Conor to win, or do you want to see
Dude,
Dustin prevail again?
I get so nervous before any of these
Oh
fights
yeah.
too. Like I feel like I'm there. It's crazy to me.
Mm,
Um, so I'll start by saying I'm a huge Conor fan. I've been a Conor fan for a really long time. That dude is unbelievable in the way that he speaks things into existence, but then he backs them up so hard.
yeah.
He, I have been rooting for him just like everybody else around the world. That being said, I think it's going to be Poirier
I think so.
because I think so because there's this shift that seems to be happening where I don't know a lot about the technical aspects of fighting at all. I've never been in a fight. Someday I'll probably, take Taekwondo and, or whatever it is,
Mhm.
but I I think from a mental standpoint, which is so much of the game. I mean, these dudes all train similarly.
Mhm.
They treat their bodies like a temple and become machines. So much of it is the mental part of it.
Yeah.
And Conor, being the superstar that he is, has so much more on his plate than he ever had. He
Yeah.
just had a child,
Mhm.
which I think probably plays into the focus part of it. Um, he's got multiple businesses to run, and he's
Yeah.
not the shit talking Conor that we all have been used to.
Yeah.
And I think in that first fight that they had, he was at his finest for talking crap to people.
Yeah.
He was almost at the height. And
Mhm.
I think that worked in his favor. And whenever he doesn't do that, with somebody as formidable as Dustin, I think it gives Dustin an edge up. I
Yeah.
really do. And he's coming in obviously pissed off about everything that happened with you know, the charity donation and
Yeah.
whatever back and forth was going on there. And I think it just fueled his fire. and he's got the extra confidence because he won last
Yeah.
time. So that momentum is a lot to handle, and it's a lot to build. It gives you a lot to build on.
Mhm.
So I think it's going to be Poirier.
Yeah, definitely. And like I think one thing you said there about fighting also being really mental. Just the fact knowing that the other guy knocked you out just not so long ago, it must it must have like a little there must be a little something in Connor's head to be like, oh man, I don't know, and it sucks to see, especially as a fan, because you're just there like, oh man, I remember on a come up when he was talking crap to everyone, and then he'll say like, oh, I'll knock you out in 2, and then he actually does it. And I'm over here, I'm like, ah, that's insane. So it's like, I don't know. I mean, for me, I'm hoping Conor wins, but dude, I think
I am too,
yeah,
actually.
yeah.
Being a fan, I hope he's going to win, but my gut's telling me he's not.
Yeah.
Which might make me a shitty fan.
No, but it's all right though. But hey, like we're gonna be sweating. We're gonna be sweating on July 10th. Because the thing is, like you said, it's like the feelings you get before a big fight. It's something I just can't explain. You know what I mean? It's like you just lean to the edge of your seat, and you're just there like, oh my god, like I really don't know what the hell's gonna happen. Yeah.
It's something that I can't even imagine. I know what it's like to perform in front of a bunch of people, but to do that in front of a bunch of people is just so wild to me. Ultimate respect.
Yeah. Oh, and actually, that's actually one of my last questions I actually want to ask you about performing in front of people and everything like that. Like, how do you get over the like nervousness or just like the anxiety of knowing that you're about to be in front of that much people? Like, is it one of those things that you just have to work on, as you go, or is it one of those things that it's like you just have it? Yeah.
On one hand, and this leads to a bigger, like a overarching thing in career. For the most part, you don't get over it. You're putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation where you have to rise to the occasion. So a lot goes into that. I mean, you got to make sure that you are super prepared, because every time you walk into an uncomfortable situation, you're either going to mess up and be right where you're at, stay right there, or you're going to level up. And I think the only way to level up is to make sure you're in uncomfortable situations all the time. You can definitely make it easier on yourself when you're performing. You can have a shot of whiskey. You can make sure that you know all the words to your songs. You can make sure you know the drum parts and like be overly prepared. So that way your body just goes into autopilot. But there is something about within everybody, I think, that when you put yourself in a stressful, uncomfortable situation, it gives you the opportunity to do something you didn't know you were capable of doing. So in career, as you graduate and you're moving forward, those nerves that you have, they're going to be advantageous in the long run. They for sure will. And if you stop feeling nervous about certain things, you're not pushing yourself hard enough.
Okay.
You got to make sure that you stay constantly uncomfortable, because it's the only way that you can continue to level up and level up and level up. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, and dude, I just had a really like a song placed in this really dope trailer a couple days ago, and I'm already like, all right, what's next? Trying to push and push and push and push, to find the next evolution of like, what does the next Burnboy song sound like? What does the next Burnboy EP sound like? How do I become better than I was 10 minutes ago, kind of thing. And if you're putting yourself into that uncomfortable situation, like getting up in front of people, it's the only way you can do it.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, hey, Burnboy, like I said, like I really appreciate you, like giving me the time, and like a lot of the stuff that you said in this interview, I'm definitely gonna apply to my own life. So I really appreciate everything you said. So before we go, do you want to plug in like your Instagram once again, and then if there's other forms of social media that people can go and follow you?
Yeah, for sure. You can hit me at Instagram is the one I check mostly. I am Burnboy. Shoot me a DM, say what's up. If you're a music producer, got music production questions, hit me up. Career advice. I didn't really have a mentor growing up, so being able to just give, overarching career type stuff and just talking about people in your shoes where you're about to embark on a new chapter, man. I love just hearing about it. So hit me up, start the conversation, say what's up. That's a place. Then you can find me on Spotify too. Just hit up Burnboy.
Sounds good. So once again, thank you, Burnboy, and to everyone watching, peace.